Do you know what pansexuality is?
No.
Do you know what asexuality
No.
is? Do you know what pansexuality is?
Does that make me a bad person?
Do you know what pansexuality is?
I don't, I'm afraid. No, and I hope you're going to tell me after I've done this interview.
In the last decade, awareness of LGBT has risen with popular British celebrities coming out or talking openly about sexuality and the LGBT community itself. With the likes of Tom
Hi guys.
Daley,
So most of you are probably wondering why I'm doing this video.
Sue Perkins, Claire Balding and Graham Norton all opening up about their sexuality and their relationships. Not only have celebrities become icons of sexuality, but different forms of media have been exploring and explaining the world of LGBT. But yet some people are still yet to fully understand what it means to be part of the LGBTQ+ community.
If you know everything because you're a man, and I know nothing because I'm a woman.
You're not a woman.
Oh, you bastard.
We're here to investigate how being LGBTQ is represented in the media, inside the community. What is it like to be gay, bi, pan, etc.? Has it gotten easier from in the past, or are we still in a world where LGBT is just a phrase people ignore?
And also, like, often people say that asexuals aren't gay enough to be in the LGBT community. So they're like, oh, you can't be in here. Like, bye.
Barnsley College has its own LGBTQ+ society, where young people in the community can just hang out and chill with other people who have gone through the same or similar situations. It is an understandable and relaxed atmosphere, and we decided that students would be some of the best people to explain how they dealt with their experiences due to being LGBTQ, as well as how they feel they are represented within the community and in the media. How long have you been open about your sexuality?
I've been open and out of the closet for nearly around 3 years now.
Since I was 14, my dad kind of just guessed that I was gay and just went on from there.
Since just before Christmas, so it's not that long.
So do you feel like that being gay is easy?
It's certainly not hard, but it's not easy either. I mean, there's always people out going to accept you, and it's always going to be a harder world with some people and prejudice, but it's not as hard as it used to be.
On one hand, yeah, because what you are is known of, but then again you've got a lot of stereotypes and a lot of stigma attached with, like, you're expected to be feminine and submissive. In actual fact, it's not 100% the case.
Do you think your sexuality is represented well in the media?
It's a two-sided argument, because there are a lot of people that. What I quite like is there are a lot of gay celebrities that defy stereotypes, and I quite like that. But you get others that kind of inadvertently use their sexuality to be a martyr, and it makes the community look bad.
What do you think the hardest sexuality to come out as is?
Probably like gay or lesbian or something, because obviously with the world, things like mine, heterosexual, it's more socially acceptable with it being mainly towards females, but then with gays and that, it's harder for them because a lot of society doesn't like it and they disapprove of it.
Probably something like either pansexual or one of the more obscure ones, because a lot of people don't even know what it means or are confused about it or just scared about it because they understand gay and lesbian, but they don't understand the more obscure ones.
So what do you think the hardest sexuality is to come out as?
I think there's three. I think there's bisexuality, pansexuality, and asexuality. Because if you identify as bisexual, you get the impression that you're greedy, or pansexual, it's the immediate association with pans, or that it's some branch of bisexual. And asexual, it's some people think that not being attracted to anyone romantically or sexually is possible. A lot of people don't think it is possible.
So what is it about asexuality that makes it so difficult to identify as? We met up with Melissa, who's been asexual for 3 years, to see what she had to say about it, and to be able to explain in more detail exactly what asexuality is.
Basically, asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction. So it's basically like a gay person would be attracted to the opposite sex. A straight person, no, that's wrong. A gay person would be attracted to the same sex. A straight person to the opposite sex. I'm attracted to no sex. Like, I'm not attracted to them in a sexual way. like it's more aesthetic or romantically, or even platonically, which is like, I want to be that person's friend, like, friend me up.
How do you feel that asexuality is represented in the media?
I feel like it's kind of not, like, I don't think I've ever heard the word asexual in like TV programs or films. I've seen like the odd article on it, like in magazines, but that's about it.
So do you think that asexuality is represented well in like the LGBT community itself?
Yes and no.
Can you explain that?
Because like often, because it's meant to be LGBTQA, but the A is often taken as ally, which is like straight people who, you know, support us, which is great, so great, because they need a status for that. But, and also like often people say that asexuals aren't gay enough to be in the LGBT community. So they're like, oh, you can't be in here, like, bye.
Sexuality, do you think, is the most represented?
I'd say probably homosexual, because they seem to be the big like front of it, because often like if like same-sex marriage, they call it gay marriage. It's gay rights, do you know what I mean? But it's like the same-sex marriage doesn't just go for gay people, it's like bisexual people, pansexual people, even asexual people.
Even though knowledge of asexuality may be scarce within the public eye, people are still being made aware of the LGBTQ+ community and the issues it faces. In the past few years, the media has been attempting to represent the community in a way that doesn't show being LGBT as a joke or a side topic. To be able to find out in more detail how the media actually represents the community, we talked to media professor Simon Kaskin to find out.
Do you think the LGBTQ community is represented well in media as a whole?
Generally, yes. I think it's better than it was. There's a lot more realistic and more balanced representations on television now. Previously, I think a lot of characterisations and representations were on things like independent or art cinema, something like Derek Jarman or Andy Warhol films. And that was how you got previous representation. I think nowadays you get a lot more mainstream, kind of forefronted representation of LGBTQ characters.
Can you think of an example where they are represented in like a more mainstream, like film or TV show?
Films. The earliest film representation I can think of a gay character, and I'm sure there are ones before that, was a film with Dirk Bogarde in called Victim. It was about 1960 something as far as I know. Then in the 80s you had things like My Beautiful Laundrette. Nowadays you've got things like Dallas Buyers Club, which I think is a lot more positive representation. It's more forefronted representations in Philadelphia, examples like that which are mainstream. Lesbian representations, there aren't many. I think try Googling it. There really aren't that many. The earliest one I remember is Desert Hearts. Then you've got minor representations in things like Black Swan. And then when you get bisexuality, I think the only representations I can actually think of is films such as Shame, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and the only other one I can think of is a brand new one called Love with Gaspar Noé film, a French director.
What sexuality in the LGBTQ group do you think is represented the most in media?
I'd say probably again, and you can prove it by Googling it, it's probably gay men. I think gay men are represented far more in any forms of media than any other kind of group. Google it. If you look, you'll find that out. Also, that might be due to a historical thing. You may be going back to traditions of TV, traditions of films where gay men have been represented more throughout the years than any other group. But I think gay men are the most represented group, I think.
In which sexuality do you think is represented the least?
If you look in Hollywood films, again, by just looking and finding out the kind of stats, I think you'll find that lesbians are least represented apart from maybe bisexuality. And I think that is something that really isn't represented particularly at all. There doesn't seem to be much representation on either TV or on film or on anything else that I've come across of something like that. So I think that's maybe the least represented group. I've no idea why.
So even with the awareness of LGBT being shown in representation throughout media and the community, it's not all it could be, as people are still being labelled for what they identify as, and are still being treated differently due to this label. But is labelling an issue in the long run? Do you think people should be labelled?
I believe it's To make more, I believe it's to make people feel more comfortable, because they know that what they identify as is known, that it does exist, that it's not some phase, that there are other people that do identify as that, and it makes them feel more comfortable.
I suppose it's because some people, they want or need a label to try and feel like they're accepted and not confused anymore. I personally don't need a label. I'm happy being who I am, and I don't need someone to tell me you are this by giving me a label.
It's a personal choice. So like, if you don't want to label yourself, you shouldn't have to. Yeah. You should just, you know, be attracted to who you want to be. But if you want to have a label and that makes you feel better, you shouldn't be chastised for it.
So it's down to people's personal preferences. But if the world were more accepting, would we even need a label to connect with? Suppose we'll have to wait and see. But with the media improving with representation and the community becoming more accepting with different and new sexualities, maybe the world of LGBT is in the right place where it needs to be.